Hey, 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 happy Thursday. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch. Welcome aboard, everybody. Tonight is Thursday, July 17th, 2025. This is live stream 1214. If you're not overly familiar with the show, let me point out, super casual around here. Just hanging out, talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news. And then we will normally take a first look at a game, maybe unbox a board game as we did last night, or take a first look at a role-playing game release as we will be doing tonight. Once in a while, I tackle topics related to the hobby, as well as just hang out with chat. But tonight, we are going to keep Monte Cook Games month rolling along because I'm going to dive on in and take a first look at High Noon at Midnight. This is for the Cypher System. You do need to have the Cypher System core rulebook in order to use this, which actually I do not have. We'll talk a little bit about Cypher System because I know they're getting ready to kickstart a new edition, which is something I'll be talking with the fine folks over at Monte Cook Games at Gen Con about. So stay tuned for that. Well, we're going to take a look at this. This is a Weird West supplement. Got to say, artwork looks fantastic, which is one of the things about Monte Cook Games I can certainly say from what we've looked at so far. Artwork is top notch. I don't think anyone's beating Monte Cook Games as far as their game book art. I'm not saying that we don't have other companies doing as well, but man, some of the artwork we've seen is just phenomenal. So now watch, we'll open this up and it'll be like, oh my gosh, what the hell? No, that won't happen. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on YouTube. You know the drill, or at least you should know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Amazingly enough, we still have folks tuning in, watching videos. Had no idea that there's actually a website that's been around for, well, we're in our 15th year. So quite a while. And because this is a live stream, there is chat available. Of course, you got to be a subscriber to the channel, and you must be a subscriber for at least an hour before you can take part in chat. So if you check that box, you want to say howdy, maybe you get a question, comment, by all means, chime in. I will do my absolute best to respond. First out the gate tonight is our good friend of the show, the Madman. Semper Buffo's with us, as is DB, Sean O'Donnell. Game Cat is in the house. Stephen from Roll for Combat is popping on in, as has Pete Strakolich and Dark Autumn Scribe. So chat is off and rocking and rolling already. Stephen says they're looking forward to Roll for Combat week. Well, I don't have any new Battle Zoo releases. There is some Battle Zoo news. We'll be talking about that in a few moments. Stephen already knows that. But I should also mention, Stephen, reach out to me on Gmail, because God knows, I don't know why I don't get any of your emails, except I get your advertising, your promotional emails. That's never an issue. So my Gmail email address, pretty simple, last name, first name @gmail.com. There you have it. All right, let's dive on into the news because landing in stores on July 31st is Pathfinder Battle Cry. Here's a lowdown from Paizo Inc. Report for duty. When diplomacy between nations fails and neither side backs down, war is the inevitable result. War. War never changes. No, that's something else. From border skirmishes to large-scale invasions, conflict comes in many forms. The perfect chance for heroes to win glory. And the world has come to war has come to the world of Golarion, embroiling the nations of the Inner Sea in a conflict that will forever change the Pathfinder setting. This new rulebook for the Pathfinder role-playing game covers all aspects of war, including 2 bold new character classes. Help steer the flow of battle as a cunning commander. They've got a cunning plan, me lord. Or protect your allies from harm as an indomitable guardian. You'll also find archetypes that allow you to raise a small battalion of undead soldiers or wield a personal siege weapon. The new larger-than-life Jotun-born ancestry. Hopefully that's how it's pronounced, because that is how the word is pronounced, Jotun. Who knows? Maybe it's Jotun-born. I doubt it. I think it's Jotun-born. Ancestry, an armory of magic, weapons, and rules for running combat alongside troops that you command to fill out your army's ranks. Golarion's generals need you, so heed the battle cry. This 224-page hardcover will carry an MSRP of $64.99. You can grab the PDF also on July 31st for $19.99. And I do want to mention the images I'm sharing are from the PDF that was advanced to me from Paizo Inc. I just kind of looked through it really fast to just, pull some pages out to share. From what I have seen, this has got the most graphically violent artwork out of anything I've ever seen from Paizo Inc. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm not necessarily saying it's a good thing. Like right there, if you're watching on a big enough screen, there is loads of blood just splashing in that image. And there are a few images like that. So I was kind of surprised. So those folks out there who kind of complain, well, there's not a lot of action going on in the Pathfinder artwork, there is in this book. And I think it's pretty cool that we're not just getting some combat rules, siege rules, mass combat rules. That's my assumption that's going to be in this volume. But that we are getting a couple of new classes. We have a new race, species. What are the ancestry? That's what Pathfinder calls them. And I do believe there's a lot of page space devoted to the 2 new classes as well as that new ancestry. It's pretty interesting. Pretty interesting. W. Forge has joined us mentioning that Paizo was affected by the new Mortal Kombat 2 trailer. Yeah, I don't think I saw anything that had decapitations or anybody reaching into anybody else's chest, but who knows? I see the battle is on in chat to be top fans. I also found out that not only are you competing to be a crown holder, it's also the stream. So I guess streams get ranked by the amount of engagement they have. I don't know. I have no idea. Steven from Roll for Combat says, come by the booth. I'll give you a ton of books. Hey, thankfully, we are staying across the street from the convention center, so we don't have to drag things too far. We do have to drag it, down a block, but not too bad. But Stephen, if you still want to get together for dinner one night, be sure to shoot me an email. All right. It's that way because my best friend Elliot Miller's with me. So I can, arrange that he's got other plans at dinner time. I don't know. We'll see what's going on. Moving on to our next news piece. Landing in print is the Traveler Merchants Edition from Mongoose Publishing. Here's what I know. Traveler is a science fiction role-playing game of the far future. The Traveler Merchants Edition is an introduction to the game for newcomers that provides all of the tools you need to create adventures or even an entire campaign. Create bold, exploratory traders and merchant princes who travel into the unknown aboard their trusty Type 2 A2 Far Trader, a rugged merchant ship perfect for frontier space. Dock your ship at advanced starports, visit strange worlds, encounter alien beings and animals, and make a fortune as you cross the galaxy. The universe awaits. Welcome to Traveler. This 72-page softcover with PDF, if you order from Mongoose Publishing, is going to carry an MSRP of $19.99. It is slated to arrive in stores this month. It might actually be making its way into stores as I speak. And I know a lot of people out there talk about, that core rulebook update 2022 is, what is it? $60? I think it's $59.99 or $69.99. And some people, I understand that is not cheap, especially if you're not completely sold on Traveler. Maybe you just heard, hey, Traveler is really cool. This is going to be your opportunity to check it out. This is essentially the starter set for Mongoose Traveler. And I know they had a starter set, which was a box set, which I think was $80, which had 3 books in it. One was an adventure, and the other 2 were actually the core rule book split in 2. This is more along the lines of kind of a starter. It's got some of the content, well, not some, but a lot of the content that's devoted to other things rather than being a trader. So a lot of the space exploration, things like that is not in this book, but this gives you a great way to find out if Traveler is right for you. And this has been out for a while, just not in print. You can still grab the PDF over at DriveThruRPG for $1. And if you want to save a penny, I think it's 99 cents over at Mongoose Publishing. So there is that. Speaking of Mongoose Publishing, we were talking about Gen Con just a moment ago. I don't know if Mongoose Publishing is actually exhibiting there or not, because their new marketing person, because I reached out, I wanted to do an interview with somebody from Mongoose Publishing. They said, well, we're not going to be there. Mongoose Publishing isn't going to be there. And then I looked at the exhibitor list. I mentioned this last week, and it shows Mongoose Publishing has 2 spots side by side. It's like, okay, so which is it? But I will say there have been times that Gen Con's exhibitors map and list have shown companies that did not show up. So I don't know. So we'll see. We will see. But that's kind of cool. Good to see that we've now got kind of a starter book that we can point people towards if they want to check out Traveler, if they want a physical book to check out Traveler. Very nice. Very nice. On to our next news piece. Our friends over at Roll for Combat, in fact, one of them is in chat right now, have teamed with Bundle of Holding for a special offer. And I've got the deets on the deal. Adventurer. This all-new Battlezoo bundle presents, well, you guessed it, the Battlezoo line of monsters and monster hunters from Roll for Combat for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition and compatible tabletop role-playing systems. The Battlezoo Bestiaries compile winning designs from the annual RPG Superstars competition. I'm a superstar. Like me personally, because I've never entered the contest. These source books also present a detailed system for harvesting parts from slain monsters and crafting them as custom weapons, armor, shields, magic items, and more. And I will say, I do believe Roll for Combat was one of the first of the third-party publishers out there for 5e that came up with the whole crafting system. Just saying. Battlezoo inspired Roll for Combat's world of Alakar, seen in the Indigo Isles setting, and the Companion Ancestries line brings high-power monster abilities to your character sheet. This Battlezoo bundle lets you use every part of the monster, and maybe even become a monster yourself, for an unbeatable bargain price. For just $14.95, you get all 3 complete 5th edition Battlezoo Bestiaries, which have a retail value of $90, as DRM-free PDFs, including Battlezoo Bestiary, Bestiary Strange and Unusual, and Battlezoo Ancestries Dragons, which includes 45 kinds of playable dragon characters. And if you pay more than the threshold price of $30.08, may have changed by a few pennies right now, you'll level up and also get both 5e guides in the Indigo Isles tour with an additional retail value of $100, the World of Battlezoo Indigo Isles campaign setting sourcebook, and the 430-page adventure path Jewel of the Indigo Isles, which you may recall I reviewed. These savings will run through July 30th, so you can get your hands on some Battlezoo Bestiary action, some Ancestries action. You get the Indigo Isles source book, the world book essentially, and then you get the massive 430-page campaign Jewel of the Indigo Isles. Not too shabby for a few cents more than $30. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Melwinius from York is with us tonight, as is Rafael Moraes and Hector Martinez. So welcome to all of you. Thanks for joining us tonight. Moonrine Long, Soulmuppet Publishing is releasing a slipcase set of Orbital Blues adventures, and I've got the latest on, oh my gosh, I'm trying to remember what the name of the slipcase is. Adventures Across the Outlaw Galaxy, something like that. Well, regardless, this is a set of 5 Orbital Blues softcover adventures, all illustrated by Joshua Clark, which were released digitally as stretch goals for the 2021 launch product. I should say project. The physical version is a compilation of 5 books together in a, you guessed it, slipcase, featuring All That Glitters. All That Glitters adds a true sandbox experience to Orbital Blues' adventure roster, with a variety of factions, NPCs, and jobs for crews to engage with. Revolutionary workers are amassing arms to throw off their oppressive masters, and an ambitious pirate queen is looking to pull off an audacious bullion heist. There's trouble at the Rock of Tariq. The adventure starts with a classic delivery job, but when everything goes south, the crew end up trapped on a foreign space station, trying to survive quickly shifting politics, and with an incredibly valuable terraformation satellite in their possession. There's Chega de Saudaid. I'm probably mispronouncing it. Visit Tratus Station and discover the meaning of Saudaid, know the plight of its workers, and be tempted by corporate money beyond their wildest dreams. Here, you can't save everyone, There's a Starborn Resistance, a collection of NPCs, character creation tools, and adventure hooks that create a hub world for your outlaws to visit between adventures. And then there's Everjoy, a 3-part dungeon crawl-esque adventure, which takes your outlaws from the planet Melange to the titular theme park with its lopsided attractions and strange hidden purpose. This slipcase set is hitting stores late this month. It's going to carry an MSRP of $59.95. If you want to get the collection of 5 adventure supplements, you can snag them in PDF, but it's from Soulmuppet, not from DriveThruRPG. They are $32 for the collection. I have not taken a peek at Orbital Blues. Sammy reviewed Orbital Blues, and I do recall she really liked it. So she gave it a big recommendation. Of course, I have reviewed some other stuff from Soulmuppet Publishing. Yes. Okay, so here's an interesting thing. So I'm actually an affiliate of Soulmuppet Publishing, and I can't remember what my link is. Yeah. I know. What a dope. Well, the reality is it's not like I share a lot of Soulmuppet Publishing news or review a bunch of stuff. So, you know. On to our final news piece. Arriving later this month from Goodman Games is Original Adventures Reincarnated 9.5 Hell Pits of Night Fang. Here's a skinny. A classic adventure updated for a new era. Nocturnal attacks have locals terrified, fearful of leaving the safety of home and hearth once the sun goes down. Something is haunting the night, and the locals have dubbed it Night Fang. The locals are desperate for assistance. Hushed whispers and pointed gestures suggest that the Hell Pits, a trio of sinkholes said to house the tomb of a great hero of old, that may be the lair of Night Fang. Do the heroes possess the cunning? Cunning once again, me lord. And prowess to confront the ferocious, well, now it's a spoiler, here it comes, vampire which haunts the Hell Pits? So now you know. The big bad's a vampire. Fully converted to Dungeon Crawl Classics and 5e, Janelle Jacquet's Hell Pits of Night Fang is a mid to high level adventure that can be inserted into any campaign, including one centered on the Caverns of Thracia, because that's where this is actually set. Yes. The 24-page softcover will carry an MSRP of $9.99 when it arrives July 29th. Weirdly enough, you cannot pre-order this over on the Goodman Games website. Actually, it's kind of, Goodman Games is a little odd as far as some of their releases go. You would think they'd give you an opportunity to pre-order stuff. Usually they don't. They usually don't start advertising stuff until it's like release date, or even I've seen it a few times like up on Amazon for sale before it's up for sale on the Goodman Games site. But it will carry an MSRP of $9.99. I'm assuming it'll probably be $10.99 on the Goodman Games site, including the PDF. So very cool. So we get another additional supplement to the Caverns of Thracia, which are now available in stores. And I believe you can get it over on Amazon.com as well. Maybe that's also a July 29th release on Amazon. Very nice. Very cool. Very cool. I would like to get 8, 9, and 10 for Original Adventures Reincarnated. I know for 10, you had to get in on the Kickstarter, otherwise you weren't going to get it. But, you know how it goes, everybody. Pete's Recklet says their passion for Dungeon Crawl Classics is still burning. DCC Day, y'all. Isn't that this weekend? W4 asks, says, I hate to ask, but is this any way related to Judges Guild? This adventure was originally released way back in the day because it is a Janelle Jacquet's adventure that's converted to DCC and 5e. So it is related to Judges Guild, just so you know. All right. So that was the news tonight. A couple of things I also want to mention newsworthy. If you are a member over at the Epic Games Store, as of today for the next week, you can get Sid Meier's Civilization 6 Platinum Edition absolutely free. And I know, Civ 7's out now, but a lot of people I know dislike Civ 7. In fact, Elliot picked it up day it released. So he's gotten the, some of the DLC. I think there was one DLC. I think it's mainly been patches that have been coming out for it. And he's already like, yeah, nah. Like, he's already moved on from it to something else. Melanie is from York says they can't often catch the show live. Well, thank you. Thank you very much for the kind words. Kathy Evans is with us in chat. Here's something funny. So Kathy Evans is with us in chat. One of the people I'm going to be meeting with from Monte Cook Games, her name is Kathy Evans. It's like, I know, I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure it's not the same person. All right, so that was the one news item. The other news item is, as of today, the Xmas in July sale began over at DriveThruRPG. You can save at least 30% on a vast majority. We're talking tens of thousands of game releases. There are some that are 75%. I thought I caught a handful that are 80% off. So this is, in my opinion, the second best sale that we see on a yearly basis from DriveThruRPG. Black Friday, of course, the Black Friday through Cyber Monday tends to be a smidgen better because that normally has almost everything marked down on DriveThruRPG. So there you go. Oh yeah, the Mammoth says, hey, we haven't said hello to Sarah D if she's out there. It's kind of funny. I don't know. I doubt if you noticed like right off the bat, but I got down here. I barely had everything ready to go when 7:00 hit. So I was almost late. So rather than having my normally about 50 minutes to settle in on everything and okay, I had 20. So I was like, oh shit. Thought for sure I was going to be about 5 minutes late. So I was a little discombobulated to start the show. So yeah, so hello to the lovely and talented Miss Sarah D, one of our chat moderators, if she happens to be hanging with the gang tonight. Anyway, so I was just talking about DriveThruRPG. Don't forget, the gaming gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you're going to visit DriveThruRPG, Storyteller's Vault, Dungeon Masters Guild, Wargame Vault, any of those One Bookshelf sites, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banner ads. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get 5% of that sale. And all those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do add up and help keep thegaminggang.com around, even though there are viewers out there who don't realize that there's a website. Mention it every show, at least twice. Nobody pays any attention to me. Sarah D says they're here with us. They're a bit discombobulated themselves. It's their day off. So, of course, it was chaotic. Hopefully, you have an opportunity to kick back and relax. So, if you like the video, if you dig the channel, if you find the Gaming Gang to be a valuable resource, hell, if you just like what we do, you can help support the outlet in a couple of ways. First, you can make a one-time donation by way of PayPal. Hell, you can buy me a 2-liter bottle of soda. That's good. 0 sugar pump. So you've got that opportunity to do that, or you can become a monthly member of our Patreon. And on every live show, I like to give a shout out to our Patreon members. Yes, they don't call them patrons anymore. It's Patreon members. So thank you very much to our $5 tier members, Gustavo Cavalho, Jason Lawman, Koval, Kevin R. Smith, Marius Smith, Sean O'Donnell, and Talzek. $10 members, Dan Webb, GameCat, Pete Stracklich, RPG Munch, Tessie Trekkie, and Tier 2 DM, as well as our $25 tier members, Agile Monk, and the Madman. And don't forget, we have a Discord server. So if you'd like to hang with the gang, there is also an invite link down in the show notes to join our Discord server. You're also going to find our link to PayPal as well as the link to the Patreon. Yay! So we are going to get on into High Noon at Midnight in just a few moments. But first, I wanted to mention that Gen Con's right around the corner. In fact, it starts 2 weeks from today. So that is when Gen Con is going to kick off. So as far as my interviews I've got scheduled, I have some that I guess we'll say that they're not necessarily set in stone yet. We just haven't come up with the time that we're going to get together. But I do have MythWorks, Free League Publishing, Cosmos, and there's one more. Oh, Monte Cook Games that I do have the times set up for. And then, of course, you can expect to see the annual interviews with Chaosium Inc., Cubicle 7 Games. I have reached out to some other companies as well. So there you have it. There you have it. So I will probably do 10 to 12 interviews. That is what I'm looking to, because I don't necessarily want to burn Elliot out, because Elliot's not used to doing this stuff anymore. In fact, last year, I think we did 4 interviews, which is what I'm trying to do on Saturday. And the day we did the 4 interviews, we went out to dinner. Yeah, we're kicking back. We're having a beer or 3. And Elliot says, "Man, this is work." And I was like, yeah, well, they give us the press pass. Got to do something. Although I have seen folks get press passes for various conventions who do absolutely nothing. Don't provide any coverage whatsoever. So, anywho, I always like to make sure that I have an opportunity to share some interviews. Every once in a while, I'll run across somebody that I haven't talked to before, and they've got something interesting. So, like MythWorks with the Wild Sea. Then what else? Don't they have what is it? Slug Blaster is another game. I just shared another news piece for a MythWorks role-playing game. I can't remember what it was off the top of my head, but I am going to be meeting with them. So remember, the week of Gen Con, the last week of July, no shows. So Wednesday, I'll be traveling down to Indianapolis, but Tuesday night, no show. So after next week, going to be dark for almost 2 weeks is how it'll kind of play out with the calendar. So keep that in mind. If there is a company out there that is exhibiting at Gen Con that you would like me to attempt to set up an interview with, let me know. Let me know in the comment section of the video after the stream is over if there's somebody you'd like to see me do an interview with. Now, once again, if you tuned in a little bit late, I've been informed Mongoose Publishing is not going to be at Gen Con, even though the exhibit map shows 2 spots. Because I had already reached out, wanted to talk to them. I had thought about Schwalb Entertainment. Maybe talk to Robert Schwalb about Weird Wizard. According to the exhibitors list, they are not there, which is weird because normally I would see the Schwalb Entertainment. It was usually a small, kind of a small, like 10 foot by 10 foot, which actually runs you a couple $1,000s. And like a line of people. Usually there'd be a line of people and other people walking by would be like, what's there? What's that over there? What are all these people in line for? DB says, Green Ronin's there. There's a lot to talk to them about. I have never dealt with Green Ronin. So I could reach out to them. I mean, that is a possibility of reaching out to them. I like to try to tackle companies, obviously, who support the gaming gang by sending review copies. I normally will not make the mistake of interviewing a company that never provides any review copies. I've done that in the past, and they're like, oh, yeah, we'll send XYZ to you, and crickets, nothing. So those are the kind of companies that I'm like, no, not going to follow up with them. Because you got to realize, maybe you're sitting there thinking, geez, Jeff, it's all about the review copies, huh? No, but that is what keeps the lights on. Yeah, if we weren't sitting here most nights looking at stuff, checking stuff out, and then I share a review of it, there wouldn't be any reason for there to be videos. Mammoth says, I know who they'd like to see me interview. I'm probably not going to do an interview with them. Couple of reasons. Number one, they aren't, see, I don't want to say who it is because they're very nice people. They're not very good interviews. So there is that. I'm just saying. Because, okay, we got a few minutes here and then we're going to move on. There are times I'm interviewing someone and they're not exactly the most interesting interviewee that I've encountered. And my mind starts to wander. there have been times where I'm like just kind of like zoning out as they're talking, and I'm, if you watch the video, you can't tell. I'm still going like, but I'm like miles away. DB says Two Little Mice might be a good interview, or maybe not. I have interviewed some foreign companies before, and there are times where their representatives do not speak very good English. That has happened actually more times than you might guess, where it's almost been like a struggle to try to get an interview done. Now, I don't know. I'm not insinuating that the Two Little Mice do not speak fluent English, but and plus another thing too, I like to kind of kid around in my interviews, and I find that non-native English speakers or people their English is a second language or further on down the line don't get any of the humor. So if I make like a wise ass remark, or if I, say something a little goofy, they just deer in the headlights. Like, what? I have fun at Gen Con, though. I try to have fun in the interviews. That's the big thing. Because it's, it's not brain surgery. I say it all the time. It's not brain surgery. Just hanging out, having fun, goofing out. We're playing games, for crying out loud. It's not life or death. Well, for some people it is. I mean, if it's their business, right? But still. Anyway, so yes. So there are times I've done interviews, and there were times that I did interviews where I did follow-up questions on something somebody said, and I was still zoned out. I wasn't stoned or anything. It's just like, So tonight, we're going to dive on in. We are going to be taking a look at High Noon at Midnight for the Cypher System from Monte Cook Games. But first, I think it's time for a brief intermission.
Folks, and a hearty welcome to our drive-in theater. We have a wonderful evening's entertainment lined up for you, one that will provide several hours of pleasurable relaxation and diversion for you and your family. Did you fail to dress up for tonight's show? No tie, an old shirt and slacks, a house dress? Well, don't give it a thought. We're glad you came as you are. We just want you to enjoy yourselves. Don't forget to visit our refreshment center during the intermission or any time. You love the tasty array of snacks we have to offer. So will the youngsters. Everything is quality and so good. We hope you'll make this a weekly visit. Bring the family. Bring your friends. There are always wonderful new pictures to see, delightful snacks to nibble, a gay, pleasant evening for all. Oh, a word of caution. Don't drive over 10 miles an hour in the theater area for your safety's sake. And Mom or Pop, go with the kids when they leave the car. We hope you have a wonderful time. Come back soon.
Introducing the world's most famous lion tamer, Clyde Lionheart.
Popcorn, fresh popcorn at the snack bar.
Now, Clyde Lionheart will have Leo jump through the flaming circle while he, blindfolded, drinks a Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola, ice cold Coca-Cola at the snack bar.
I am a oodle.
I am Doodle.
We'd like to teach Yoodle how to talk like a oodle. Oh, simply take a oodle, you put it in the moodle, so good becomes goodle.
All you do is add a oodle.
Plenty is poodle-enty.
Candy is Coodle-Andy.
Oodle-poodle-enty, coodle-enty.
Doodle-licious.
Oodle talk is fun. Just add oodle to any word or name. John is Joodle on. Mary is Moodle-ary. Get oodles and oodles of good and plenty candy in every box.
Oodle and poodle-enty.
That's good and plenty candy.
Oodles and oodles and
And
oodles.
they taste doodle-dandy.
Good and plenty oodles.
Lots of fun to choodle.
Oodle and poodle-enty, coodle-enty.
Learn Learn the secret of Oodle Talk. Collect and trade the Oodle Dictionary cards on boxes of Good and Plenty candy.
Doodalicious.
You know, people who don't drink Wilkins coffee just blow up sometimes.
Oh, that's a lot of...
See what I mean?
Return to us. We await you, oh beloved of the old faith.
Camilla York. She is to blame, Catherine, for everything.
And how do you know I'll be bored out of my mind?
Well, spending a week with an uncle you've never even met.
No.
So I know why you're going. You're hearing those voices again, haven't you?
They're not voices. They're premonitions.
I saw something. You are a direct descendant of Camilla York. But I saw it, Stephen. But it wasn't my parents who were burning. It was me.
If you've ruined my plans, Stephen, I'll kill you. I can promise you that. Vicious, isn't it?
What have I done?
Made me fall in love with you.
That boy is a complete mystery to me. One moment I fear for his sanity, and the next butter wouldn't melt in his mouth. Seek her out. It's taken a long time, but now you belong to us.
In that trailer, that door opens up and I see that, I don't know if they're vicars or something like that. I just expect the guy to say, "No one expects the Spanish Inquisition." Probably would have made it a better movie. But anywho, Pete Stracklet says Green Ronin's Freeport is one of their favorite settings of all time. I have heard good things about Freeport. DB says, Schwab wrote the Black Company setting for Green Ronin. They loved that. We do have a Black Company role-playing game on the horizon. Art Dream Publishing, same folks who do Delta Green, have been working on that. I'm kind of curious about that. I wonder. Melunius from York says they've got Dragon Age, Modern Age, and Fantasy Age books from Green Ronin. Decent for games, not sure how the system does in a campaign. I would not mind seeing the second edition of Fantasy Age. Just like, wasn't there a new edition of 13th Age that came out? And I know that's not Green Ronin, but I would be kind of curious about that too. When I talked to Cobalt Press, so that's another one that's, we know it's going to happen. We just don't have the time yet. I think it's supposed to be Saturday morning. But I'm actually going to talk to Cobalt Press about some of their Foundry stuff. Because I would like to check out a couple of games. So as an example, I don't know if I'm going to talk to Paizo or not. They haven't actually reached out to anybody about setting up interviews, which is odd. Normally they do, but for some reason I think it's usually a little closer to the con. But I would like to check out if they're going to do it with the same pizzazz as they do Pathfinder. I would like to see the Foundry stuff for Starfinder. So we'll see. we'll see what happens. Like I said, I'm looking forward to having fun at Gen Con. If you are attending, you run into me, be sure to say hello. If I'm interviewing somebody, please do not interrupt. Because that happens. It's like, did you miss how we're mic'd up and there's a camera right here? And I guess so. Raphael says, Shadow of the Weird Wizard, it took years to come out. I don't think it was that long. I mean, I know Robert Schwab isn't it Robert J. Schwab? I understand he was working on that for quite some time, but I know there's other role-playing games that have taken far longer to come out, some which have never come out. Pete Reichlich says, I'm curious if the Kobolds have Northern Midgard in the works. I will do my best to find out. DB is commanding me to interview Arc Dream. Ask them how long it'll be for Black Company. You know, Arc Dream Publishing normally does not attend Gen Con anymore. I interviewed Shane once. He and I think it was Dennis Detweiler, the two of them together, did an interview with, and you know, I've reviewed different Delta Green stuff. I got to be honest. I think they didn't appreciate the fact that I shared the review of God's Teeth, and I didn't give it a review score, and I said, hey, this is really well produced, really well put together. I would not run this. Because after that point, I haven't really heard anything from Arc Dream anymore, which is weird because somebody at Arc Dream, when I told them what I was going to do, said, you know, I wouldn't run that at my table either. So, all right. So regardless, we're here to take a peek at High Noon at Midnight for the Cypher System as Monte Cook Games month continues. This 224-page hardcover carries an MSRP of $49.99. You can normally grab the PDF for $18.99 at DriveThruRPG. Remember I mentioned that Xmas in July sale. Right now, you can pick this up for $13.29. Pretty smoking deal. Having said all that, let's swing on over to the other camera because here I've got High Noon at Midnight. I just feel like putting like a whistle in there, you know, like High Plains Drifter or something. Yeah. Good, the bad, and the ugly. W. Ford says, didn't know they had Keith David on the cover. All right, so before we dive on in, a few things to mention. First of all, my friends over at Monte Cook Games were kind enough to provide me with this review copy, but neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the gaming gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this first look with you. It's important you know that. We're also not going to look at each and every page of the book, but I do want to give you a good feel for what you're going to find inside. Now, I have a feeling this might be Game Master facing or more Game Master facing than player facing. So if you're a player, you've been warned. There might be some spoilers that we take a peek at as we're flipping on through. And then lastly, you must own the Cypher System core rulebook in order to use this. Let's take a look at the back here. Explore dusty dimensions where fortunes are decided one cursed bullet at a time. The outlaw's rotting husk shambles from its grave seeking revenge. Better hope your ghost banishing rounds are chambered, partner, because you're riding across a west where hungry tumbleweeds roam, cursed beasts slink through arid canyons. I thought it said and canyons. It's like, what? Demons and spurs drink whiskey, and justice rides a horse made of hellfire. High Noon at Midnight is your ultimate guide for building, running, and playing Cypher System games set in an uncanny world of six-shooters, wanted posters, card games, and smoke-shrouded saloons, and showdowns at high noon. all tainted by magic, horror, and even advanced tech. So, of course, this is a Weird West supplement. Of course, it went on to tell us what's in the book, but we're going to open this up and find out ourselves. Raphael says, yes, very different from what we're used to. It's not another Deadlands cover. No, it is not. So first thing we're going to do, let's take a peek at the credits page. A lot of folks worked very hard to bring this to life. Let's give some credit where credit is due. Of course, I will have a review of this in the future. What I'm thinking I'm going to do is when I meet with Monte Cook Games, I'm going to ask if I can get a copy of the Cypher System core rules. I assume they're still selling them because, yes, they are going to kickstart a new edition of Cypher System. It is still off in the future. It's probably before the end of this year. But are you trying to say you've got all of these various different supplements that do require the Cypher System core rulebook, and then you're not going to have a core rulebook? I don't know. All right. So we've got Weird West world building. I like that piece of art. That's cool. It looks like the real West, but then you can tell this is some sort of robot or green-skinned creature. That's pretty cool. So here's the introduction here. Westerns weave through my earliest memories, owing partly to growing up in South Dakota. The real Deadwood was only a day's ride away from where I was born. But if I'm being honest, my 10-year-old self's visceral reaction to the dominance of Western-style movies and stories was a hard swerve into science fiction and traditional fantasy. Who wanted to imagine cowboy boots and a horse when you could visualize jet boots and a spaceship, or a spell book and a dragon? Not me, at least not me as an adolescent. So Western entertainment and I parted ways early. The end. All right, well, that's the end of the... A lot of High Noon at Midnight is devoted to tools for you to create your own Weird West setting. But if you're looking for an already imagined place where Western themes meet ancient horrors and magic, look no further than the Ghost Range. Ghost haunted and demon plagued, the place owes many of its secrets to long-vanished antediluvian entities first discovered by native nations. I bet you didn't think I knew how to pronounce that word. Those entities had touched as proscribed zones. Lesson, you got a death wish. Best stay clear of those. I'm guessing the Ghost Range is something that's already been released for Cypher System. Just taking a guess. Robert Santon's with us in chat. Welcome aboard. They're sorry they're late. Well, we're just diving on into this. So part one is going to be world building. I have this affinity for the Weird West. I've never run a role-playing game set in the Weird West. I've never run a Weird Western Call of Cthulhu adventure. But I am really into history, really into like the American Civil War and the Western expansion. So I know quite a bit about the real West, and having traveled, Havling, Jeff? Havling to Mabba. Jeez. Needed to wet my whistle. That's it. You need to wet my whistle. Anyway, Havling, did it again. Havling. I'm cracking up. See, it's like I'm mashing together the word have or having traveled out west many, many times. One thing that has always struck me is how the hell did these settlers make it? There's stretches out west on like main highways, right? I-80, where you'll go 100 miles without gas, without any, I'm not talking without a town. I'm talking about without a gas station. Crazy. And to think that these people walked, many of them, the trail the Mormons took. Many of them walked with belongings that they put into wheelbarrows. Crazy. Just crazy. All right. So just taking a peek here, it's talking about how accurate you want to make your game. That's cool. So, and it's actually got some random tables. So if history diverges at some weird event or advent here, somewhat historically accurate, giving us traditional themes of justice and vengeance, redemption and reckoning, freedom and survival. I would also say that another Western theme would be survival against all odds, carving a place of your own. So we've got weird themes: magic, magic foundation, translating magic into tech horror, baseline horror. So unlike, say, Deadlands, which came up in chat, it's looking as if the game master and the players are going to have the options to craft their own Weird West the way they want it to be. Kind of along the lines a little bit like Chris Spivey's Haunted West, where if you want to make it a horror Western setting, you certainly can. If you want to make it just a historical Western setting without any of the kind of, steampunk, without any of the horror, high tech, anything like that, you certainly can. So this is looking to be a little bit like that. So we also have advance in alien tech, Weird West tech. Yeah. So as an example, those of you who are old like me, you might recall, at least I saw this in reruns, Wild Wild West. And no, I'm not talking about the god-awful Will Smith movie. I'm talking about the original television series with Robert Conrad and Ross Martin, which was not always fantastic episodes. Don't get me wrong, there's some clunkers there. But that was kind of a James Bondish in the Wild West. So we got some plot seeds here. So far, the artwork looks pretty solid. As I mentioned earlier, one thing that I've noticed from taking a peek at the trio of Monte Cook Games releases that came my way is the artwork has been top notch. I like this piece of artwork. I actually used this as a thumbnail back when we were only doing news on the Dispatch. So I would go and try to find a thumbnail that was associated with something we were talking about. And I used that because it's kind of cool. It's like this guy being dragged by his horse and it's like a pterodactyl or something. See, that's another Weird West you can go with. It's kind of the Lost World. Raphael says, weird Numenera West. I don't think they're really going for a Numenera vibe, though. W4 says, Cowboys versus Aliens wasn't so good either. It actually started out okay. It wasn't too bad, and then it just kind of down to turtlet. Yeah. Roger Perdome's with us in chat. So here we've got GM intrusions for Weird West mounts. I have just started to take a peek into the Magnus archives. So it has been a long, long time since I reviewed the core rulebook for Cypher System, which was a PDF when it first came out. So I had reviewed the first edition of Numenera in PDF. I also had reviewed the first edition. Well, I guess it's still the same edition of Cypher System, but we're talking when it came out now, 7-8 years ago, maybe. So I've completely forgotten how the mechanics of the game work. Yes, and I do know you've got player intrusions, you've got GM intrusions. I just don't understand, like off the top of my head, how they work. So we've got bounty hunters. So once again, this is all our world building taking place in this first part. I would take a guess that we'll get more into the kind of like player facing character creation, the various different archetypes, things like that. Melvinius is rocking on out. Good to see you once again. Go get some sleep. I know it's late, but we're here hanging. So hopefully see you again soon. So the wilderness, Badlands. Badlands resist visitors because they're hard to survive in. For a second, I was going to say, Badlands resist visitors because they're bad. No, because they're hard to survive in. Serrated, spine-like terrain forms an eroded, barren landscape that stretches as far as the eye can see, sometimes overlapping or indistinguishable from deserts. Yes. Like the back when Lewis and Clark set out on their expedition, there was a common misconception that the center of the United States was a desert. And yes, the plains were similar because there wasn't trees for hundreds of miles, but it was not a desert per se. So we have playing poker, simulating NPC poker players, winning poker hands, PC skills, and real poker. That's kind of wild. Hands of Fate. So these are some optional rules for the Weird West. Curses the Weird West. Tall tales. The Weird West is particularly fertile ground for tall tales and folklore, especially since it's possible that parts of fanciful stories may actually be true. In any event, given the kind of activity player characters are likely to accomplish, tall tales may come to be told about them. Raphael says they're a big fan of Cypher System's intrusion mechanics. They're happy to see this more and more in other games like Daggerheart. Drinking, being inebriated, repercussions of being inebriated, gambling. The one thing that I think a game master with their world building, if they're looking to do a Weird West, is that there's kind of a fine balancing act. Because if you go too far into the weird tech, into like alien technology, steampunk, things like that, then you start moving away from the actual Western aspect of it. So, in my opinion, you still have to have a situation, a setting where the 6-gun rules. You can't have it where, oh, well, everybody's carrying like a laser pistol or steam gun or something. Okay, so now you're not really doing the West. You're doing science fiction out West. So just my feelings on it. Creatures and NPCs of the Weird West. Jackalopes, chupacabras, death tumblers, night crawlers, zombie sorcerers. So we're getting by level. Level 7 is the Deathbinder. Level 6 has a Ghost Rider. There's a Dire Coyote. Frostwalker. I think this is going to kind of finish us up here. Forgeborn. Oh, no. What was I? No. I was going to say, I don't think we're halfway through the book yet. It looked like I was at getting close to the end paper. I'm like, oh, wait, not. No, hang on. Sean Down says, Firefly is a great example of not Weird West, but very heavy Western influences. There's gunfighters. Here we go. Part 2, the player characters. So let's take a look at some of the types. The Forgeborn, so you're a mechanical creature. Grizzled. Laconic. You're a soul of few words or no words at all. Oh, the man without a name. When a shrug or nod will do. Now there's some who'll flap their jaws about everything that comes into their head. Sometimes they get under your skin, but you don't upbraid them. Nope, you just frown. You're direct and to the point, avoiding elaboration. You're comfortable with pauses, and when you do speak, your words carry extra weight. All that said, and that's a hell of a lot more than you would say, you don't mind other folks, just their prattle. So you gain the following characteristic. Deep waters, +2 to your intellect pool. Skill, you're not easily distracted. You're trained in perception tasks. You've got a dry wit. You're trained in positive interaction tasks. Initial link to the starting adventure. So there's some options, 4 options for you to choose from. So not a hell of a lot going on with this because they're just a standard character, a regular human being. W. Fart says that they wouldn't mind running or playing in a short campaign based on the Valley of Wanji, which it wasn't that Ray Harryhausen who did the special effects for that? For some reason, I think it is a Harryhausen movie. So we've got slick, trigger happy, trailblazing. I find it interesting how many gunslingers, historical gunslingers, stories are that they killed 30, 40 men. And the reality is they probably killed 4, maybe. Although John Wesley Hardin, that you might recall for years, they had the Time Life books, the Time Life, what was it? Old West, True West, something like that. And the commercial, let's see if I remember the exact words. John Wesley Hardin, man so mean, he once shot a man for snoring, which is supposedly true. He is one of the few gunslingers that the body count is probably pretty close to being spot on. Wild Bill, no, it wasn't. Oh, yeah, it is. Wild Bill Cody is one that they think he probably killed 3, I think it's like 3 men. Wyatt Earp, same thing. Wyatt Earp didn't gun down, dozens of cowboys. Okay, just like I'm sure many of you have seen, oh God, now I'm flipping zoning out on it because I'm thinking of Wyatt Earp with Costner and then Tombstone. Kept wanting to say Yellowstone, and I'm like, why do I want to say Yellowstone? I'm your Huckleberry. So, in both movies, they have White Earp ride off on his vendetta ride. And in both movies, it seems like, they're on the trail for weeks, chasing down all these cowboys. His vendetta ride was like 48 hours. And I think they gunned down four cowboys that they had caught. And part of that vendetta ride is the famous scene where they're at like a creek and it's an ambush and all these bullets are flying and Earp's just standing there shooting, not trying to take cover or anything. And all these bullets were fired at him, not one landed. That's something else about the West. A lot of people don't realize. A lot of gunfire, very, very inaccurate. All right, currency and equipment of the Weird West. So, have currency, we've got our dollars, gold dust and nuggets, barter, script and private tokens, stardust. So that's, once again, I guess the Ghost Range setting. Okay. We've got some gear. The Cypher system is very narrative and Numenera, as an example. Invisible Sun, which I will probably talk about Invisible Sun Indigo with the fine folks over at Monte Cook Games at Gen Con, because that just successfully kickstarted. I'm kind of curious about that. I think that big black cube scared off some folks. I think it scared off a lot of folks from checking out Invisible Sun. Because I thought at its heart, Invisible Sun is still built on Cypher System. Okay, so some kind of weird ammunition. Sobering round. When this round is fired from a gun, additional attacks made from the gun gain the same benefit for the next minute. Instead of taking damage, a successfully attacked target immediately becomes sober, no matter their position on the intoxication track. Unlike most other alchemical rounds, a sobering round can simply be swallowed by someone to gain the effect. However, doing so doesn't infuse the sobering effect for 1 minute as it would to a gun it was fired from. Wanted slug. Wanted scribed on the bullet case. Bullet only fires if aimed at a wanted poster. Assuming the poster is hit, a routine task, within short range and nothing else is distracting the shooter, the spent shell gains a special resonance with the creature indicated on the poster. If the spent slug is collected, it acts like a soul magnet, pulling in the direction of the individuals shown on the poster, no matter how far away they are. The holder of the slug also has a general sense of how far their quarry is. Somewhere in the same building, somewhere in town, miles away, hundreds of miles away, etc. The spent slug retains this affinity for a number of days equal to the Cypher's level. The demon pistol. W. Ford says it was the price of Invisible Sun that scared them off. Completely understand. I remember I interviewed Monte Cook the year that it was going up on Kickstarter, and they had it was essentially a mock-up on display at their booth. And there were like 1,000 cards. And I thought, man, that's a hell of a lot of cards. It's like, geez. And I don't think the cards were utilized in like your character creation, like we're seeing with Daggerheart, where, you've got these cards in front of you as the player that's showing, various important aspects of your character. It wasn't like that. And I was like, wow, how do you like to have to sort through to try to find stuff It's like, okay. So here we've got the Weird West setting. So we've got the Ghost Range, Midnight, the Outer Range, and other lands. So is this where we're going to get Ghost Range, or is this... Maybe this is. All right, so the Ghost Range. Looks like that is some fiction to start off with. The Ghost Range is a Weird West setting designed for use with the Cypher System rulebook and selected rules described right here in High Noon at Midnight. Thanks for pointing that out. It exists on an entirely alternate world, historically distinct from the real one. If you're reading this, you're probably aiming to run a campaign set in the Ghost Range. Here's what you can expect. Okay, and then it's just kind of giving us bullet points as opposed to getting into, okay, so what's the deal with the setting? I'm taking a guess it's going to be more of a traditional sort of Weird West, maybe kind of leaning towards the horror aspect of things. Major aspects of this setting. Old West styles and themes pervade the Ghost Range, but the big ideas that put the weird in the Weird West of this setting are as follows. Broadly speaking, player characters know about these elements as part of living in the setting. Other things are not so obvious, including the truth about the antediluvian entities. Somebody likes that word. Those are things PCs might learn during play. So we've got alchemy and magic, ghosts, cursed beasts, and demons, native nations, stardust and dust falls. Falling stardust resembles silvery snowflakes glowing ever so faintly in the dark. In direct sunlight, it evaporates within a couple of rounds and is gone. On cloudy days, it takes a few minutes. But stardust is otherwise stable even when exposed to artificial light, even if that light is magically summoned. So looks like we've got some gambling in the Ghost Range. So I guess this is a town, the town of Midnight. Oh, see, I thought we were getting multiple settings. I think it's one big setting. W4 says, I think the big black box of Invisible Sun is still on sale over at Monte Cook Games for $287. Yeah. At one point, I seem to remember you could get the core black box. I think it was $100. Oh, no, I know what it was. The PDF was $100. Captain Infinity, Time Travel Police is joining us. Maybe Captain Infinity just arrives from the Old West. Could be. All right, so we've got some keyed locations there for Midnight. I would also take a wild guess. You know me, I like to float different ideas out there. I bet you could utilize High Noon at Midnight as well as the Cypher system with Deadlands Adventures. Especially if you understand the mechanics, stat blocks of Savage Worlds. I would think it would be relatively easy to port that stuff over. So I guess we do have different settings, because I think this is, oh no, maybe these are adventures. It does say adventures in the Weird West, Jeff, maybe looking at that. So I think maybe these are Ghost Range adventures. Yeah, it says you can use it in the Ghost Range or another Weird West setting. So we've got some adventures here, so I will skip more pages. So Showdown in Alchemy Alley. Ooh, little gunfight at the OK Corral, eh? Outlaws stage an attack on an alchemist in the city of Midnight, and the PCs are caught in the middle. The characters want to end a festering cycle of violence. They must find the gang's hideout in the Badlands and deal with them one way or another. Showdown in Alchemy Alley is an adventure suitable for 4 to 6 Tier 1 PCs. Can be played as a one-shot or incorporated into a larger campaign set in the Ghost Range or another Weird West setting. Looked like, I think there were 4 adventures. Looks like there's a bit to this too. 5-card fiasco. A once-in-a-decade poker tournament, the Hold'em Poker Open, draws players from all across the territories because the stakes can be a bit out of the ordinary. For player character poker players, winning any given pot is sweet, but winning may prove just as dangerous as losing if their greed drives them to collect winnings in a prescribed zone. 5-card fiasco is an adventure suitable for 4 to 6 Tier 1 or Tier 2 player characters. It can be played as a one-shot. Yeah, okay. It says, if you're looking for a little poker flavor as a distraction from more serious adventures in your Weird West game, sample 1 or 2 options from other poker players playing the tables and maybe between games. Aha. So, are those portions of the adventure? Yes, that is. So it's saying just if you want to have something a little more lightweight, just focus on those portions of the tale. When the tomb moon is full. Folks know to stay inside when the tomb moon shines full. Zombies, frostwalkers, vampires, and worse, necrovores cavort when its fell light stains the sky. But the player character's job requires that they not only brave the moon's foul radiance, but actually travel to its airless, lifeless surface. Wow, there you go. They're going to the moon. Bust out a little Jules Verne. Fire that big cannon. Get them up there that way. If they don't, the notorious Watertown Warlock will exhume a frozen head interred there and use it to usher in the end of everything. So this is for Tier 3 or higher player characters. Seems like this book is pretty well loaded. I think this was the last adventure. I believe so. Oh, then we get some shorts. Okay. Dead Vengeance. The player characters were in a posse that eliminated a notorious gunslinger. Now he's risen from the grave and seeks vengeance on those who put him there. Gunsmoke Express. Player characters are part of a gang of outlaws attempting to rob a train. Aside from expected dangers, the player characters discover cursed cargo that threatens to consume them all. Then we got our index, and we have an NPC index. All right, that is a peek inside High Noon at Midnight for the Cypher System from Monte Cook Games. Of course, I will have a review of this in the not-too-distant future. Of course, this is available now. This 224-page hardcover carries an MSRP of $49.99. Normally, you can grab the PDF over at DriveThruRPG for $18.99. But because of the Xmas in July sale, as I'm sharing this stream, you can pick this up for $13.29. So even if you're not running Cypher System, you might find some good ideas in here that you'd want to crib for your own Weird West role-playing campaigns. Sweet. Very nice. Very nice. All right. That is it for this time out. So next week, I believe Tuesday, we will be diving on into a Paizo preview. I think I'm just going to call it Gen Con edition because all of these items we'll be taking a peek at are coming out at Gen Con. Now, if you've been following along this week, arriving tomorrow is the second edition Starfinder Player Core. I do plan on sharing a first look video of that book sometime tomorrow. Maybe around the time that you would usually be watching this video. Funny enough, not this video, this stream, I should say, this live show, I had considered maybe doing a live first look. And then I thought, well, it's a Friday night. I'm sure I won't get the usual crowd hanging out. What if, for some reason, the package doesn't show up? You know, because that's happened. That has happened before. So I thought, well, no, I better not do it live because probably just a lot of disappointment. Right. You're like, hey, everybody, well, guess what? The package didn't come today. It's coming tomorrow. Shit. But I'm going to do everything I possibly can to get that first look. And we'll actually dive into it a bit. I know Paizo Inc. doesn't want a ton of it shown. So I'll do my old tricks with leaving my hand on pages and things like that. But I know a lot of people out there are very curious about what's going to be inside the player core. So if you are interested in Starfinder second edition, take a peek tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Central-ish. I should have the video up if the package shows. So next week, next Tuesday, we'll do the Paizo Preview Gen Con 2025 edition. On Wednesday, we will dive on in and take a look at Mappa Mundi from 3 Sales Studios. As I mentioned before, this is a role-playing game. It's a fantasy role-playing game of exploration. I think combat doesn't play a role or plays a very small role in this game. I have seen some artwork for it. Artwork looks fantastic. And this is a boxed set, so it's not super heavy. It's not real light. I'm going to take a guess. It's probably a hardcover book. Does it even say? Yes. This box contains the Mappa Mundi, an exploration plus ecology role-playing game core rulebook, and the Mappa Mundi Journey deck. So yes, this obviously got to be a hardcover book because it's got that weight and heft to it. These folks are out of Turkey, I believe. Kind of cool. Turkish role-playing, huh? Nice. And then a week from today, I don't know. We'll see what rolls on in. We'll check it out. All right, everybody. If you're watching live, thank you very much. If you watched live and took part in chat, I don't hand out the crowns. So take that up with YouTube. But if you're watching live and took part in chat, thank you, because you not only are keeping me company, you're also keeping each other company as I'm paging on through a book, sharing the news, unboxing a board game, what have you. But of course, I know a lot of folks out there, you don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. Thank you for taking time out of your busy life to watch any of the over 2,200 videos here on the channel. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you will not find here on YouTube. You know the drill, or at least most of you know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, if you like the video. But of course, if you do subscribe, make sure that you ring that bell, because it'll not only let you know when the Dispatch streams live Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings at 7 p.m. Central. It'll also let you know when I share other videos, such as my recent review of Age of Vikings. I actually said it correctly tonight. The Vikings age. Duh! From my friends over at Chaosium Inc. Thank you kindly for watching. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer, and as always, I certainly hope each and every one of you gets to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.